Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menasce. On today's show, we're talking about the industrial world and efficiency. The industrial world has been focused on improving efficiency and reducing cost for much of the past 30 years. Globalization has made it possible to squeeze inventories down to nothing. Just-in-time delivery means these hyper-efficient, hyper-optimized supply chains can deliver the promise of owning no inventory and still meet customer demand. Offshoring was the name of the game. First, Japan was the manufacturing location of choice. And when Japan was too expensive, companies moved production to China. And when China was too expensive, they moved production to the Philippines and Vietnam. All of this worked until it didn't. The supply chain disruptions have shown just how many links there are in the supply chain and how many opportunities exist for delay and outright breakdown. Some suppliers have stopped taking orders. Some have increased prices and resorted to specialized higher-cost shipping in order to meet customer demand. Still others are struggling with staff shortages and are completely unable to handle the crush of demand. Let's be clear, we're not going to see a full onshoring of manufacturing. Moving manufacturing is a long-term decision and it requires months, if not years, of careful planning. We won't see manufacturing of furniture return to North Carolina, and we're not going to see clothing manufacture shift from Bangladesh to Brooklyn. But when the number of packages shipping overnight was only a few million, we saw FedEx and UPS build a single hub model for the rapid delivery of products and packages. But as Amazon's clearly demonstrated, inventory needs to be distributed and it needs to be placed near the point of consumption if you have any hope of meeting the real demand. The FedEx and UPS models are not up to the task of moving all of the global goods and services through a single hub. The cost is too high and the system just won't scale. The million-square-foot fulfillment centers that now dot the nation are testament to the importance of managing inventory. When ships are stranded off the coast of California for 3 weeks before unloading at Long Beach, and then there's a global shortage of shipping containers, and when semiconductor manufacturers have months of backlog in orders, these paradoxical dislocations show up everywhere. Now, some of the big box suppliers like Home Depot and Walmart have chartered their own smaller container ships and they're relying on smaller ports in order to keep things moving. There are problems all over the global system. There's a shortage of truck drivers and a surplus of pilots. There's a shortage of automotive computer chips and a surplus of tires. All of these problems affect security of supply and the ability to fulfill customer orders. So what is the solution? Businesses all over the world are building infrastructure to hold inventory and ensure security of supply. Security of supply has taken over and replaced just-in-time inventory as the focus for production line planning. Business owners have recognized they would rather pay a few points of interest on holding inventory compared with the current problem of losing business because they simply can't fulfill orders. Demand for flex space, industrial space, local manufacturing is exploding in the United States and the other major industrialized countries in the world. But there's many types of inventory that require security of supply. There's a shortage of finished goods, often due to a shortage of components and raw materials. Builders themselves are making business decisions to hoard inventory instead of risking gaps in supply, and all of this inventory takes space. And that's why industrial real estate right now is the hottest sector. I'm building several buildings myself this year, and I don't trust the supply chain. But I don't want to buy a warehouse or even rent a warehouse. That would create a transportation issue. So I'm buying shipping containers instead. But so far in the past year, the price to acquire used shipping containers has doubled. I'm still buying them, and when I don't need them any longer, I'll sell them and recover my investment. But in the end, I expect those temporary warehouses will cost me nothing. I'm confident I'll get back every penny that I paid for those shipping containers when I go to sell them. Everyone I speak with in the realm of construction is looking for a place to store materials. The process of hoarding creates a surge of demand. It also creates a distorted picture of demand for manufacturers. They can't distinguish between satisfying true demand and the desire for businesses to create their own shadow inventory. Eventually, that shadow inventory will get consumed instead of making new purchases, and that will likely result in a downturn in the economy. But we don't know exactly when that'll be. But in the meantime, if you want to solve real problems for real businesses, you have to find out what kind of space would solve their inventory management problem. Is the investment in security of supply a permanent feature in the supply chain, or is it temporary? Many retail businesses are looking at reducing their retail footprint, and the pandemic has taught them how to make do with less retail storefront. With the showroom floor reduction comes the need for more warehouse space. Businesses are focused more than ever on security of supply than just saving a few pennies. Now, I can't tell you whether the demand for warehouse space will collapse when the pandemic's over. Maybe things will return to the way they were prior to the pandemic, but in my experience, things never return to the way they were. They evolve into something new that's different than the past. I expect the demand for flexible commercial inventory warehousing to continue to grow for the next year and possibly beyond. When I say inventory, that applies to both raw material inventory and finished goods inventory. As you think about that, have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.